Okay, so stop me if you've heard this before, but the City of Toronto is bringing a new tax to the world of real estate. So we already pay land transfer tax when we buy properties. There's foreign buyer tax, which was supposed to bring down prices. We pay property tax, obviously. We pay capital gains tax if we sell a property that's not our primary residence. And then there's the tax that we never saw coming, inflation. And now, even though inflation actually pushes property prices up, if your money's sitting in your bank account, you're actually losing a bit of money every single year. By no means am I making this video coming out and on the City of Toronto for bringing another tax to the market, because I understand why they're doing it. The real estate world and all the news surrounding it loves to talk about potential vacancy, right? Even though the actual vacancy rate in Toronto is under 1%, everyone loves to talk about the fact that they hear that condo buildings are half vacant, or there's houses in certain streets in different areas that no one's been living in for a few years. And hopefully if we bring in this tax and make people rent out those properties, we will bring at least a little bit more supply. So I get it. I get why this tax has come to the table. And in this video, what I'm going to do is break down everything you need to know about the Toronto vacancy tax. Just before I get into that, my name is Tom Storey. I run a real estate team here in Toronto. If you like this type of real estate content, you can subscribe to this video, or if you want to book an appointment with me, go into the link in the description. You can book a buyer consultation, a seller consultation, or just a call to chat about real estate. So let's break down how this tax works. So all property owners will be required to self-declare the status of their residential homes each year. This will determine their home's occupancy status and whether the vacant home tax is payable. Nothing further is required on property owners living in their own homes. Okay, so at the beginning of that statement, they said self-declare. So you have to self-declare every single year if your property is going to be vacant or not. Now, I don't know exactly how they're doing in Toronto. I do know in BC, if you didn't declare, they just assumed it was vacant and it caused all these issues. So if you do have several properties, make sure when you're declaring, you're doing it on time and you're not missing that date. Now, if a property owner declares that their home is vacant, they have to pay a 1% tax each year based on the assessed value of the property. Now, here in Toronto, the assessed value of a property and the market value of what property would actually sell for, there is sometimes a very large gap. I've seen homes that sell for $1.3 million where the assessed value is like $800,000. I've seen condos that sell for $800,000 where the assessed value is $500,000. So keep in mind, this is the assessed value based on how you would pay taxes on the property, their property taxes, not the market value. So basically, whatever your assessed value is, you're paying $1,000 per every $100,000 of value. The last point here is that this tax is based on the last year's status of that property. So this tax is starting in 2023, but it's going back. So if your property was vacant in 2022, you have to pay the tax at the beginning of 2023. Then we got to talk about what does vacant actually mean, because that can mean different things to different people. So their definition of vacant is if a property has sat unoccupied for over 6 months of that calendar year. Now, this is not applied to your principal residence, only investment and secondary properties. Now, there are several exemptions for this tax, so let's go over those right now. If the owner of the property passes away in that last year, they would be exempt. If there's any major renovations or redevelopment of the property, they would be exempt. If the property owner is in some type of medical care, or if there's any limitations that you couldn't actually rent out the property for whatever reasons, you would be exempt. If there was a transfer of legal ownership during this year, so if you sold the property during that year, even if it was vacant at the beginning of the year, it sounds like you're going to be exempt because you're probably already paying capital gains tax anyways. And the last one is if there's a court order for some reason that you can't physically be in the property or rent it out. They also were very clear that principal residence can be left unoccupied for large periods of times, basically telling all the snowbirds out there that like your principal residence here at home in Toronto are going to be safe. Now again, they said periods of time. They didn't give a specific time period, so just something to keep in mind if you do travel a lot, to keep watch if these rules ever change. Here are my actual thoughts on this tax. I understand why they did it. I don't necessarily agree or think it's going to make housing more affordable, but they did say that all the funds that are collected every single year are going to go towards initiatives to try and bring more affordable housing to the market. Now that's something we've heard before and it never really happened. I'm really hoping they stick to what they're saying here and they're actually going to do something that could help the average person get into a house. If an investor owns several properties and is leaving them vacant and this 1% tax is going to make them rent them out, that's a good thing for the market. That's going to bring way more rental inventory. It's not going to really help the sale market other than if people just don't want to pay this tax and then sell their property, but I think that's going to be a small percentage because most investors are in it for the long haul. But here's my concern. because I think on the surface level, this is nice. This will bring more inventory to the market. Maybe it'll push some investors to sell their properties. But you know what? If someone leaves a property vacant, they're already paying a tax, right? So here's an example. Let's say a property's assessed value is $500,000. So they could probably rent out that property because its real value would probably be $700,000 to $800,000. They could probably rent it out for $2,500 a month. But if they've left it vacant, effectively, they're already paying a tax of $2,500 a month or $30,000 a year. So if they're already paying that by not renting it out and paying taxes and maintenance fees on that property, do you think that another $5,000 tax on top of that is actually going to change their mind if they're going to rent it out or not? I don't think it will. And what I think will actually happen here is that it's going to be the small time investors that maybe were leaving it vacant for a specific family reason, or I don't know exactly what it is, but they can't be exempt. They're going to have to rent it out, and that will be good. There will be more inventory. But any other investor with deep pockets, this isn't really going to change their mindset. But I guess on the flip side, if they're going to pay more tax and that money is going to go towards programs for affordable housing, I guess that can't really be a bad thing, right? My final thought is that there are many different areas of BC where this tax has already existed in the past. Ontario has a funny way of copying what BC does about 6 months to 2 years later, depending on the new rules. Now, have property values gone down in BC? No, they've skyrocketed like everywhere else. I really wish the government would look at ways to bring supply to the market instead of just taxing as much as they possibly can, because it's been showing that it is not actually working. Didn't want to make this video negative at all. Like, really, I fully understand why this tax is coming to the market. I just don't think it's going to have the outcome that the average person is looking for. It's not going to make housing more affordable. Might bring a few more rentals to the market, but that's about it. Thank you so much for watching this video. My name is Tom Storey, and remember, home is where your story begins.